Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, back again with another preview video. This time we're taking a look at Bandada from Runnaman Games. This is currently on Kickstarter right now, and so we are going to leave a link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description down below, so make sure to check that out. And everything you see here is prototype, so make sure to be aware that the final artwork and components may look different once the Kickstarter campaign fulfills. Bandada is a dice manipulation card drafting game with a theme around birds. Let's go ahead and take a look at it on the table. All right, so here's Bandada. And before I get into this, I want to make sure to let you guys know that everything you see here is prototype. So the final artwork, components, and maybe even some of the rules might be a little bit different once it is released. That being said, Bandada is a game in which you are going to draft cards to manipulate these dice here in order to score the most points you can. Bandada stands for flock of birds in Spanish, and exactly that's the theme to this game. You have birds and you're trying to collect them. The way this game works is you're going to roll all these dice and then group them into colors. This is a two-player game, and so you and another player are going to work through this deck of 12 cards, drafting them in 4 rounds. So that means there's going to be 3 cards out here. And what you are paying attention to is that on each of these cards, there's going to be a top section here that lists actions that you are going to do to manipulate these dice here. And so, for instance, this card says flip 1 yellow and 1 black. Now, flipping a die just simply means that you take it and you turn it completely upside down. And the 2 numbers that you will see, so a 4 and on the bottom is a 3, always equal 7. So that's how you know that you flipped it exactly right. If it was a 6, it would flip to become a 1, and if it was a 5, it would flip to become a 2. Other cards are going to say things like, give 1 black plus 2. So that means add 2 to one of the blacks. Anytime that you add anything to a 6, it will always turn over into a 1. So increasing a 6 becomes a 1, and anytime you decrease a 1, it becomes a 6. And that's pretty much the list of the actions. You're going to be adding or taking away numbers or flipping dice. And the reason why you might do that is because on the bottom of the cards are scoring conditions. So 1 point, that's what the feather icon means, per 1. And so you look at down the line here, and for however many 1s there are, you're going to receive 1 point. Now, the first player will draft one of these 3 cards and carry out all the actions listed on the top, and then immediately score that card based off of whatever the scoring condition is on that card. And after that player has done that, then a 3rd card will come back out to replace the one that was just taken, and then the 2nd player will draft one of these 3 cards and repeat the process. They will carry out all the actions and then immediately score what is on that card at the bottom. After both players have done this, you'll remove the 2 other cards that were not chosen, and then you will score again the scoring condition on the cards that you have. But the catch is in the subsequent rounds, after you have drafted more cards, you are going to score all of the cards that you have. So you are trying to not only use the actions to best benefit the scoring that you will be doing on that particular card for that round, but you want to try to get the best maximum points for all the cards that you have throughout the course of the game. And this is 4 rounds long, so you will have 4 cards by the end of this. Now, score is kept over here with these score markers, and that is pretty much the gist of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner of Bandada. Now, there are a couple of modules, and one of those is that you can play where you have a hidden scoring agenda at the beginning of the game. You shuffle these, deal 1 to each player, and there are 2 options presented. There is one that generally has something to do with a number of the dice, and so 3 points for each 2 here. Or there's going to be another scoring condition, such as equal to the highest value die from each color. And you're going to score whichever of these are higher at the end of the game. Another module you can play with are the specialized pawns. Each player will receive one of these at the beginning of the game, drawn at random. And what these pawns allow you to do, you have 2 different actions that you could use them for. The first action that you can do is that at the end of scoring, you can use your pawn to change one die of the same color, +1 or -1. So that obviously helps you to score your cards a little bit better. Both players can do that. And then the second thing you could do is swap in one of the birds from your personal Bandada for a bird on the top of the draw pile. Now you can only do this at the end of a round before scoring. And when you choose to do this, you have to return your pawn to the box, and you're no longer able to use either of the two actions that the pawn allows you to do. So that's a one and done kind of thing. That's the specialized pawns. There's also a solo variant in this game, and then on top of that, there's a solo adventure variant where you work through this deck of adventures that have different difficulties that take you all around the world. So you have Africa here, and there's multiple ones of certain locations that increase in difficulty, and there are different requirements that you have to meet in order to win the game, that particular scenario. And then you have India and Sri Lanka. There's also, let's see here, Oceania and Guatemala. And so that's pretty cool to work through. And that's pretty much what is in the box for Bandada. Let's go back up top where we share our thoughts. All right, we're back. And right now we're going to share our thoughts on this game and maybe a little bit about what you could expect when you play it for yourself. Sam, what did you think about this game?
I liked it. I like any game that's not going to take up too much space or too much time. And I think this kind of hit both those categories pretty well. You didn't have to have too much strategy, but it was just enough to make it interesting. It was really easy to understand, but it wasn't too simplistic to where you got bored with it either.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the box says 10 to 20 minutes. I think that's right on. I think our game was about 15 minutes long in the playthrough video, and you can check that out by clicking the I in the top right corner. That's a perfect little spot for this game because the choices you have to make are crunchy, and they have you kind of think upon layer because those scoring cards add on top of one another. And so you're not just making a choice for this particular round, but you're also trying to make a choice that works well with all the other scoring cards you have.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
I think I probably got kind of lucky with the cards that I was able to have, because a lot of mine had yellow in them, and I think that helped me out in that instance in that game, and I ended up winning. So I don't know. I mean, I think it really depends on the cards and how well you're able to pay attention. I think if they were different cards, if they weren't all yellow, it maybe would have changed the game a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is a game that every time you play, you are gonna have to just be astutely aware to the scoring that's available to you at that time. And the replayability factor, I think, is pretty high in this because of the cards being different every time you play, the dice being different every time you play, and you're gonna have to develop that strategy as you go.
Yeah.
Which I know in our games in past that we've played that's kind of one of those things that can engage you and bring you in, but it can also be one of those things that can be very overwhelming for a non-gamer, having to develop your strategy as you go. But with this little one, I don't think that's such a problem.
No, I think with the amount of cards and the concept of the game, it would be really good for a non-gamer because it's just not super overwhelming.
Yeah. Very small footprint, doesn't take up a whole lot of space on the table. It won't be overwhelming to you when you look at it because it's just 3 cards, it's just 12 dice, and you only have to look at those 3 cards and the scoring cards that you already have in front of you. It's not gonna leave you feeling like, oh my goodness, there's so much to think about, and yet at the same time, as you're playing it, you're thinking, oh man, there is a little bit to think about here.
Yeah.
It's layer upon layer of thinking, and that's a really cool experience. I really enjoyed that.
I think it's a good way to introduce non-gamers to that thinking process of some of these games.
I would agree with that. Excellent introduction into card drafting, dice manipulation, But more so than that, just the idea of thinking of what I do this turn is really good for me now, but is it the best for me from all the other choices that I've made so far? Having to weigh out that is a very difficult thing to produce in a game, and you get it in here in such a little tiny package in 10 to 20 minutes. That's really cool, really unique. Yeah. So Sam, you would definitely recommend this for non-gamers.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one to start with for sure.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well that is Bandada from Runnaman Games.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you can get notifications of all our new content.
All right, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.